Good morning. It's morning. It's 10:41. So what is it? 22:11. I've got a couple of minutes, and I thought, I'm going to get video number 3 done. So this is video number 3. The first video, what we did there, we looked at the flow. You need to have lead flow. Before you can have cash flow, you need lead flow. So we looked at that. The second thing we looked at in the second video was to say, cool, let's get some systems in place, because if you've got the systems in place, you can do so much more with it. We spoke about sales guys. We spoke about things that you can actually put in place there. Today, and I mentioned this in the second video, today we're going to talk about tweaking these things, right? So the first time is our best effort. We really put all the effort in, all our thinking in, and we think, this is going to be awesome. And sometimes it isn't, sometimes it's not. And that's where this piece comes in. Just because we were performing at a certain level doesn't mean that's the best we can do. And then people ask, but if we put our best effort, how can we actually improve this? And the answer, the answer to that question is data. Here's the thing. We might think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but the market votes with their clicks and their wallets, right? So if we put something in front of the market, we can actually see whether they like it or not. We can see that by their clicks and their wallets. What I mean by that, if they're clicking on stuff, they're liking it, they're interested, they enjoy, they go somewhere. If they buy stuff, they're voting with their wallets. So if you've got an e-commerce store, go to your store, they put in their details, they make a transaction, Bob's your uncle. If you've got something where a person needs to get a quote, they might fill in a form. You go to the website, fill in a form, they'll contact you. Or if it's something urgent, they might pick up the phone and say, how's it? I need help. Help me, right? So all of that shows you that people are clicking. One, that's the first thing they need to click. And then the second thing is that we've got a conversion event. Either they buy something, or they make contact, or they give you a phone call, whatever the case might be. Hey, they might even just visit you at your store. Hey, I don't know. It depends on your business. I almost hit that thing over. It really depends on your business. That's the mic. See, I've got a cool mic here. Let me just show you. That's my mic. Anyway, so that's a cool mic. So you need to have data, and you need to be able to analyze this, right? So when you analyze this, you want to analyze the big stuff. And when you analyze it, you want to do something that's called A/B split testing. A/B split testing is where you show 2 different versions to a certain number of people or traffic, right? So you can decide, well, I want to split this 50-50. So 50% of the traffic goes to the one, and 50% of the traffic goes to the other one. And you check, hey, which one's performing better? And when we say performing better, it could mean many different things, right? Because depending on where customer is in your sales funnel, or whether they know about your business or not, or how urgent the sale is, there will be different levels, and there will be different conversion events. And here's the thing, you need to have the data to know this, right? I've got a website called marketingmachine.co.za. Go check it out, where I talk about a couple of stories about clients where we tested these things. Now, 2 of these clients, well, let me talk about 3 clients. The first client, when we started with them, they were getting like maybe 30 leads a month. That's not good enough. And then we started tweaking this stuff. So instead of sending people to the one page, we send them to another page. Suddenly, they went from a 1 or 2% conversion to a 6% conversion. Wow, that's great stuff. And they said, but is that all we can do? I said, we can change this a bit. Anyway, so they went from 30 leads to 60 leads to 150 leads to 200 leads to 300 leads. Beginning of this year, we generated 1,900 in 2 months. Imagine that. That's just by tweaking these things. And when you tweak this, you really want to focus on the big stuff first, and then you can go into the minor details. Many times people say, the color, yes, sometimes color can be important. One word can make a big change, but you need to go in and you need to test. So that's the first client. The other one, he was running his own AdWords campaign, right? So we come in, we checked it, we did a couple of changes, things on the site. He was getting like 200 leads. 60 days later, we doubled the traffic. Okay, so he didn't just get, he was getting like 2,000-3,000 traffic, right? So now he's getting like 6,000 to 7,000 traffic. Doubled his leads, went from 200 to 500. The clincher is this: we're saving him 7,000 a month on his AdWords, plus doubling and getting more leads. Doubling the traffic and the leads and saving money. It's like a double whammy, triple whammy. It's not just a double one. All right, so that one. And then another client, what happened was their site broke one day, and the people said it was going to take a week or 2 weeks to get it right. So she contacted me and said, well, we can definitely help. That was on a Friday. We put some effort into it and put some, really work the whole week in getting this thing right. And the Monday they were live, guess what happened? They used to get like 7,000 people visiting. Suddenly now they're getting 32,000, 36,000 people visiting. Their leads went from like 700 to 3,000 leads. Now, isn't that amazing? The first month, I think it was 2,560. It's on the website, marketingmachine.co.za. Can't remember all the numbers exactly, but you'll see the details basically on there. Now, isn't that just fantastic? And the reason these things are happening is because we're testing it. We're seeing what ad is working better. So this one or that one, and whether this page or that page, whatever the case is. For instance, this one, the last client I'm talking about, we were testing an ad to 2 different pages. The one page improved results 55%. Can you imagine that? One page, 55% improvement. If I had to say to you, I'm going to save you 10% on your tax, you'll be, whoa, these things are more than that. This is like a 50% and 300%. It's crazy numbers. But these things are possible when you test and when you do certain things. There's best practice that we use and we put in place, and we will immediately get a better result. But then you need to go in and you need to test these things and see what works. There's a book by the name of Good to Great, and written by the guy by the name of Jim Collins. It's there somewhere. I'm going to get it now. And he also wrote the book Built to Last, right? So about big businesses. Built to Last was written first, and then they wrote Good to Great after that. And people said, but why did you do it that way? You say, well, you need to understand the big businesses first, and then the next question is, how did they get there? Right? So there's a big business. That's what it means to have a big business. But how do you go from being where you are currently and growing into that space? So Good to Great, they talk about a couple of things. And one of the first things is that you need to have the right people sitting on the right seat. Many times we see in business, especially on the sales side, you've got the wrong person sitting on the wrong seat. So they might have like a bulldog. There's a book called Sales Dogs. Trying to think who wrote it. Anyway, it explains all of these different dogs that you get, right? So you might have like a pit bull that goes out and pulls in the clients. You don't want that person on your customer service. you don't want to do that. You might have a Chihuahua, or you might, whatever it is. I love dogs. They're absolutely fantastic. But depending on the person, you need to have the right person in the right chair. Then you decide, cool, where we're going. Because with the right people in the right chairs, you can decide where you're going. And then it's about consistency. It's about these things that you need to do. So as you've got this consistent effort that basically happens, and you want to push it in the same direction. And then what happens is after a couple of iterations, you don't see the movement yet. And you see it just goes, and then suddenly he calls it breakthrough. So suddenly you got this whole thing. So you go like this, you go slow, and picks up, and then that hockey stick curve, that you've seen that hockey stick curve, cool. So that's what happens. These campaigns are exactly the same. You tweak, and then suddenly you see this jump of thing that just suddenly something just grabs. And when we do campaigns as well, we're looking for that thing where you can see if you really close into it and it starts working, because you can see the results. There's this vibe thing that goes along with it. Then you know, hey, this thing is working, right? I also do a bit of growth hacking. Well, actually quite a bit of growth hacking. And one of the things we're looking for is exactly that thing. And one of the things we talk about there quite a bit is that it's not experiment number 10 or 12 that might be the right thing. It's probably number 752. Only then we see these things. But you get this cumulative effect. So you improve this thing and that thing and that thing, and people think it adds up. It actually multiplies. So you get this multiplier effect. That's why the curve is not just straight. It actually goes like a hockey stick and goes up. But I talk about these things on marketingmachine.co.za. So if you're interested, you'll see some information there. Go to the website, marketingmachine.co.za. I'll put the link in here somewhere. But here's the thing. You need to do these things. If you don't do these things, you might just be underperforming. One of the other things I talk about, it's also on the marketingmachine.co.za site, is this client. We implemented a tool for them, and they discovered 2.5 million and closed 159,000 Rand of deals. Now, isn't that, and that's in the first week, isn't that absolutely amazing? You might be sitting with a pile of cash on the table. You might not even know about these things. So unless you implement, unless you get the data, unless you do these types of things, it's not going to improve. The definition of insanity, you've probably heard this one, is doing the same thing, expecting different results. So you can't do that. So if you're running AdWords campaigns, you think that's the best it can be. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe there's opportunities there. The same with Facebook ads, the same with LinkedIn, all of these things. You might think you've got the best website in the world, and it might be true, and there's a small little chance there. But did you know that the big companies, we're talking about the Airbnbs, the Facebooks, Dropbox, all of these guys are actually employing and using people like us to help them get this growth. That's why if you had to Google growth hacking, you'll find me as well. But it's this growth that you get in your business. But it doesn't happen by accident. If you think these companies had this growth by accident, it's not true. They've got people working on this data and checking and moving and twisting and doing all of these twists and tricks to get that exponential growth that they're experiencing. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. Many people think, oh yeah, I'll be the next Facebook, I'll do this. The amount of work and the amount of effort that these guys are putting into their growth and tweaking and looking at the data is just phenomenal. I remember we were doing a LinkedIn training course, and we were talking about how much Microsoft bought LinkedIn for. It was $264 million. Now, do yourself a favor, not now, but later. Type that into the Googles and just see how many zeros behind that number. And if you had to convert that to rands, it's just a phenomenal number. Anyway, so they brought them over, and then 6 or 8 months later, you could actually see how they've changed LinkedIn, right? So some people were still sitting, and we were doing this training thing live. So some people were on the old LinkedIn, and some people were on the new LinkedIn in the same room at that moment in time. And you will not believe it, was around about a 50-50 type of split. So some of the people were on the old one and some were on the new one. It was absolutely chaos for me because I was doing the training, right? To show people how to use LinkedIn. My point is this. The big companies are doing these tests. If you log in many times into the Facebooks and into the Instagrams and into the all of these places, you'll see different buttons many times. And you might not realize it, but they're testing whether people are clicking on that button. And they're changing it, and they're changing the wording and the things, and they're moving the things around. They're testing to see how they can optimize what they've got. And you need to do exactly the same thing in your business. You need to look at the data, and then you just say, how do we improve this? And that's the A/B split testing thing that we talked about. But here's the thing. You need to have statistical significance. Now, what does that mean? Basically means that there needs to be a certain volume go through that thing for it to be viable. If there's not enough volume going through it, we might just make the wrong decision. So when we do these things, we've got a hypothesis. So we say, cool, if we do this, we think that will happen. And that's our hypothesis. We're going to test this thing. For that to be true, to be statistically significant, and there's a 90, a 95, and a 99, and then you've got a 1 and a 2-sided and all of these weird and wonderful things. But you need to make sure that statistically, that change that you did is actually significant enough to be applied to the rest of the traffic or the population that you've got. And because we can't go to the whole population, we use statistics to be able to measure and test these things to make sure that the changes that we make actually have a positive impact. Just because we think it looks cool doesn't mean it will work. So I've seen many times we sit in meetings and then a guy says, yeah, oh, this is what's going to work. And I say, well, let's test that. And sometimes, yes, it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's through data that we get the right understanding. That's why one of the first things that we do is we need to get this flow right. So if you don't have flow, if you don't have lead flow, you don't have traffic, then you can't really do these things. And that's where the beauty is. That's where the power really becomes, is when you've got enough flow and enough traffic, then you can do this awesome stuff. But without that, you're dead in the water. You need to have that flow coming through on a consistent basis. It's not just a one-time type of thing. You need to have that flow basically going. You can go to marketingmachine.co.za. You'll see I talk about this and how I can help as well. I'm going to put some links into this video to somewhere here, you'll find it, to the other two videos, because there we talk about the lead flow, we talk about the systems, and then this one is about the data that we get and how we can improve it. Just remember another one, we help the client in their sales process add one more step. And when I just did this, and this is something they didn't do for 8 years. For 8 years, they didn't do this. It was crazy. Anyway, added one step to their sales process and their sales went like this. Okay, so sometimes it is an easy thing that we need to just change or add or do. Sometimes, and most of the times, there's a lot of these twists and things that we need to test and see how to get it better. So I'm going to put those links in here. If you're interested for me to help you, go to marketingmachine.co.za. All the details are basically on there. Also put the links to the other two videos. That's me. Have a wonderful and a fantastic day. Rock on. Cheers.